Hi, everyone. This is Mary Kurek of Frontrunners Innovate. And you know that what we like to do best is to bring you people who are the world's problem solvers, people who are very creative about how they're digging into some of the toughest problems that we suffer here on planet Earth. And I have a wonderful example of that you must meet because, you know, I am attracted to people who are doing things a little different. And this gentleman's figured out how to do things his way. And I can't wait to dig in and find out what that way is, but I know a little bit, just enough to get into a conversation. So let me introduce to you Don Kent. And Don is the principal and founder of Healthy Lands. And if that doesn't trigger a little question mark in your mind, it will as we go on. But I want to get into Don's background a little bit because what he has been doing over the span of his lifetime, if what I can gather, his career lifetime anyway, is building blocks towards sustainable development for our lands. And how he does that is pretty amazing. So Don, welcome. And thank you for joining us today. Hot topics, every time that we post anything around greening of the planet and, climate and recycling, anything, we just get tons and tons of interactivity. So thank you for presenting the opportunity for us to create more conversation around this. So let's talk about your background. How did you get here? How did you get to this place of healthy?
Well, if we go way back, I grew up on a small town on the North Shore in Massachusetts that was just full of state forest and beach and marsh. And so between that and sports, those were my life back then. Yeah. I was either playing sports or I was out tromping around somewhere in a natural area investigating. And when I realized I wasn't going to be a professional sports person, I started focused on ecology, and that set me off and continued through all of my degrees. That was it. So the thread here, which was never clear from the beginning, of course, I stumbled along like everybody else trying to make a living and thinking that you needed promotions and all of that stuff. I hadn't contemplated purpose at the time, really. So I consulted briefly for a big international firm, and then Disney came calling and asking me to join their research and development group and work on environmental issues. And then after a long run there, I started a nonprofit in Florida. That's where I was at the end of my Disney reign, and focused on a lot on the Everglades. And we were focused on water a lot on the Everglades, but I also was doing quite a bit of work in China at the time. The Chinese seemed to be envisioning the future a little quicker than we did, frankly, at that time, which was kind of surprising, but it was fun. So I did that for a while, and then there was some personal illnesses in the family, and we had to relocate. So I worked for the government in New Hampshire for a little bit. And then NatureServe came calling and off to DC, and started by building the capacity of their network. They have programs, independent members all over the Western Hemisphere. So that was quite a challenge. There was 85 of them. So trying to bring that into a cohesive group moving forward and leveraging all of that. And then short stop at Kurek, which turned out to be the wrong place for me. So I started Healthy Land. I am at the point where I have clarity about purpose, and I wanted to do things my way, which involves collaboration in heavy doses, but I'm pretty clear about how I think things need to go. So
fantastic. What I want to get you to paint a picture for me is the content of the types of work that you do. Can you give us examples that will help us kind of visualize what we mean when we talk about, sustainable land development and that sort of thing? For instance, you were part of the design team with Walt Disney World. What did that entail? What were you looking at and looking for?
Yeah, Disney, there were some smaller projects around the company, but I spent a lot of time working on the Florida property. There were two big things going on. Walt Disney World was at a point where a company wanted to do a build out. That property is 33 square miles, and it has critical habitat, and it has a river running down the middle of it. And there was a lot of natural resources. There were 60 protected species on that property.
Oh my God.
And it's just, in addition to critical habitat for them. So build out 60 species, we had some work to do. At the same time, we were contemplating the Animal Kingdom Park, which was supposed to be a conservation park. The designers were sincere about setting the right message and exposing people and educating people about all the environmental issues, animals and plants and how they come together.
Yeah.
So I was heavily invested in those two big ideas. How do we design a park that's legitimately good for the wildlife that's going to be in it, and not a zoo? That was the big saying. They were doing a lot of work in Africa, and they came back and they decided they would say, not a zoo, pretending it was a Swahili word.
Yeah.
We're not designing a zoo.
Mhm.
So I got to work with the design team and outside experts, and we put together a park that I think held up pretty well. Still fun, but it sort of absorbs you in the idea that the planet is important and we need to do something about it. So that's the message. The other big piece, as I said, was coming up with a plan for the property, which meant we needed to know everything was there. We needed to know whether there were sustainable populations, not sustainable populations, and then map out countless ways to preserve that. And we did.
Mhm.
We were able to integrate throughout the whole property. So I'm quite proud of that. Other kinds of things I've done range from helping the World Bank come up with a social and environmental framework. Spent a year as an expert working with them. That was a ball, realizing that all lenders were going to have to follow a framework around the world. I mean, you always want to have an impact, or at least I always want to have an impact. I want to do something that's worthwhile and be given a chance to participate and add to framework that every borrower to the World Bank is going to have to adhere to. That was good.
It is good. How do the borrowers feel about that, though? Because they're heavy on the compliance necessities anyway. So
and that's where we were pushing. We wanted to tighten up. So not only did we do the framework, what we built in accessory guidance, let's say, so that it wasn't just, well, you should do a good job here.
Yeah.
It's just like, this is what we're looking at. Here's the metrics and the values.
Yeah.
So that's the goal. Of course, most of the borrowers are turning to these humongous consultants, nonprofit or profit. There's both kinds working in that space. So that was good. Something a little more sciencey I got to do was with the Inter-American Development Bank. I was thinking of my acronyms and translating it back to real words. So Inter-American Development Bank, they work out through Latin America and the Caribbean. So they're sort of a lesser bank, lending, guiding, trying to help people do a better job to evolve. As we know, countries continue to develop. Everybody wants what a United States has or France has or something. So everybody's trying to push forward. So I proposed a model for using communities, not using in the pejorative sense, but involving communities and the sustainability of critical natural resources. So we went to the Alvarado Lagoon in Veracruz, Mexico, which is a global wetland site, and had talked with the agencies who just didn't have the capacity to keep an eye on everything throughout all of Mexico, and sat down with the communities and talked to them about what was important to them, how were they using the land, why were they making certain decisions, and sorted through that and helped them understand the value of the different choices they would make. We actually created a board game, a Monopoly type of game, but a little more fun and less.
I love that.
Yes. And that got them to choose economic results and resource results without having to become economists. And it became clear to these communities that were embedded in this critical resource that, this is in our best interest if we do less cattle, less sugarcane, and more protecting the mangroves where we're fishing and tourism and things like that. So they come to their own decision.
Yeah.
Now they're motivated, right? This is theirs. They have ownership of it.
Yeah.
So the last step was, how do we make it happen? And we did scenario planning with them. If this is where we want to get, how do we get there? How could we get there? And the community again sat down and worked through scenarios until they came up with one that actually worked for them. And to me, that pretty much drove me from NatureServe, honestly, because I really was invested in people. NatureServe is a great organization. Data and research, critical.
Gotta have
But
it.
I had found myself in this place. My purpose had finally become completely clear, is that none of this holds together without the users of the land and waters committed and taking ownership for the results. That's how we go forward. We don't have enough regulatory people. We can't buy
Paradigm
enough
shifting.
land.
Yeah.
Our education is not built to collaborate. It's built to compete. So it comes down to who's there, who's really impacting the land, good or bad. That's who we need to work with.
Well, you know, I do a lot with youth mentorship and youth training. And one of the big projects I want to push forward at some point, and I've been doing it little by little in my own area. I've founded 2 youth leadership programs, and then I've piloted a couple of global ones, in the process of one now. And one of the things that becomes clear to me, and even teachers have told me this, is that we're not teaching the kids the right things in school. I mean, we are teaching some of the right things. They got to know how to make a living. But that's all we're teaching them, really, is how to make a living, and maybe some history that they'll never use in their life. But I mean, it'd be fun to know, and it's good to know where we've been, to know where we're going. But the concentration there, I think, is, you know, it's more than just how you can make $1, it's how you can take care of what's going on here. It's knowing to be a global citizen, that you're not just the 4 walls of your community. It's knowing how to take care of your planet. It's, you know, it's all these things that make us up as a human being body, if you will. And I think that if we can start teaching things along with the math and science and all the other stuff that we teach, so that kids can get a broader spectrum, if we start teaching things that more follow in line with character and civility and, you know, peace building and negotiation skills and, you know, that kind of thing, I think that we would probably be ahead as we go through generations. But I think, you know, where you're headed with things, it took you how long to figure out that this was your thing, that was your path, right? And I think it does take a long time to find these things, but you were on the path before you got to the realization of where you needed to be. But it's like I say, it's people, not the thing. You know, it's the thing a little bit, but it's for you. And for a lot of people, they'll understand that, you know, you can't do anything with just land and soil and, you know, water and, you know, trees and things without the people who are, like you say, using them, or how they're, and understanding how they're using them. But let me get back to your game, because I thought that was an interesting concept. Was that built just for them, or is that something that any community could use?
No, it was built for them.
Okay, so it's
specific, so that
area.
Right, they had choices that were real choices for them.
Okay.
Right, so the substance of it could be replicated anywhere, and that's what the bank wanted. They wanted to put it through all Latin America and the Caribbean, because the same kind of problems are cropping up everywhere. But locales have a little different twist to them. So you could use that type of game. You just, instead of cows, it might be fishing. You know, whatever. So, yeah.
I could so see that being useful for a lot of communities that don't have like minds on the same project. You know what I mean? Not everybody's on the same page, so to speak.
But when you boil it down, everybody has the same needs.
Yeah.
You know, first is, I need to eat.
It's just redefining what that is, you know.
I need to eat. I need some shelter.
You know, we need education. We need health care.
And we may have a different viewpoint because we're so far from that. We take so many things for granted, but it's not so simple for a vast majority of people on the planet.
Oh yeah.
So you've got to start there. And you know, you were talking about what we learn and don't learn. I know as a scientist, I was trained to be a scientist, and I was a research scientist, and I did some teaching going along with that, but nobody talked to me about what it takes to work with other people. We didn't talk about collaboration other than, oh, I've got lab mates or something.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, this is where it is. That's where our education is trying to catch up,
Mm-hmm.
is collaboration and what I call boundary crossing.
Yeah.
You know, we were so narrow. So many of us are trained to do one thing really well, follow steps. That's the definition of a knowledge worker.
Yeah.
You know, you were given the information, you learned it, and
Yeah.
then you go out and do it. Well, the world is far more complicated than that. It just does. It was great when all we were trying to produce as doctors and lawyers, and nothing bad with that. But that doesn't work when you realize the planet is declining, and it's the ecology of the planet, ecosystems are far more complicated, frankly, than diagnosing a patient. So it takes knowing a lot of disciplines or knowing how to work with a bunch of disciplines to get an end result that's going to work. So, so there's collaboration. We're talking about different sets of skills than what most of us were provided. As it turns out, a lot of those skills you could kind of throw in a basket and call them leadership. And that's where
not everybody's a leader. You don't want everybody to be a leader.
Actually, I do want everybody to be a leader.
Well,
yeah.
But I'm saying from a standpoint of if you're collaborating, you want them to be leaders in their own respects, but not everybody needs to take over the project. You've got to have people who are doers.
Yeah, there's responsibilities, which is different than leading. So I have a whole section in my book, then the online course, called Shared Leadership.
Yes.
It's in recognition that no one person knows it all, and no one person can do it all themselves. So there's ways to share leadership. That doesn't mean, as you point out, that everybody's in charge. No, we're working towards something together, but your role is this, my role is that. The decision making is clear. At the end of the day, we try to come to consensus, but if we don't come to consensus, I'm responsible for this. I own this problem. So I'll make the last call.
Yeah.
So, and people, as long as my understanding and experience is, if people feel like they've been heard, legitimately heard, they will be okay with that. Not everybody actually wants to make the decision. A lot of people just say,
just want their ideas.
I'll contribute. I
Yeah.
want you to hear me. I want to talk about it. I don't want to be responsible.
No, don't make me
right.
responsible.
You go right ahead and make the call.
Okay, since you brought up the leadership piece there, talk to us about the training program that you've got going on.
Yeah, so this all started when I was in NatureServe. One of my duties working with this vast network was to build their capacity. And just before I got there, they had a consultant come in and do a leadership program for them. And when I talked to the members of the network about how it went, trying to find out whether we're just going to keep doing the same thing or we need to do something different, they said, well, it was okay after we mutinied. And what?
Takes two.
My reaction too. What? They said, yeah, they had no idea what we do and how we do it. And we told them, this is what we need to learn. This is what we need to talk about. So the consultant pushed off the side. And we spent some time together talking about what are the problems we need to solve and what skills do we need to solve them. So I started building this whole new course from scratch. And that has now evolved into what is a book on Amazon and the online class. I'm 3/5 of the way having it online. It's coming soon, the rest of it, so that it can get to people. So where does it start? It starts with preparing to lead, which means you need to discover your purpose. You know, like me, I had a purpose. It was there. The path was there, maybe a little shrubby growth, but it was unconscious for me.
Yeah.
I hadn't consciously sat down and said, what are you trying to do? You know, it was short-term thinking all the time. So help people discover their purpose, make better decisions. There's a lot of brain stuff in there. the whole course is built on business research, psychology, brain science, things like that. It's not squishy, no offense to anybody else, but I didn't want it to be squishy. I'm still a scientist. I wanted proof for everything we're doing.
Yeah.
So discover your
Like
purpose.
that word evidence-based I saw in your
Right.
language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Better decisions,
Yeah.
embrace change, which is the first step to doing more with change. And then leading others. So I talk about leadership types, where it's not all stamp out. You know, everybody has different skill sets and different ways of approaching life and different characters and so forth. So that promoting change, sharing vision, and I won't remember all of these off the top of my head, but in essence, this is for that second section is for people who are responsible for other people.
Mhm.
And you've got to enable and motivate them. I get heavily into enable and motivating people. Share leadership. I start with what's grown into a monster chapter on effective communication. Just hitting all the bells and whistles, audiences and verbal communication and nonverbal communication and persuasion and much, much more. Creating and innovating. That's a skill we don't teach.
Don't teach it. Yeah.
We don't teach. Here's what's happening in the US, sadly. When you test a 5-year-old, like 99% of them are creative. By the time they're an adult, like 5% are creative.
And they're
We
fearless.
beat it out of them. We beat it out of them. We educate in a way that says, no, don't create, don't innovate, learn this, learn this, learn this.
Yeah.
And you kind of get slapped down for being creative. No, that's not what we're trying to do here. Stick to this. So we're basically early childhood creative. And it doesn't mean having to be an artist, but just able to think outside the boundaries.
Yeah.
And then we just
beyond what you see
bang.
possible in front of you into maybe zones that you don't even know.
Right.
Just think
the good news is we can bring it back. There is a way, and I have a chapter on promoting creativity. So there are ways to do it for yourself, and there are ways to do it for others. So we've got to get back there. We're not, again, we're looking at a catastrophe. I mean, let's be honest. Climate change, if we don't reel it in, we're in trouble. We have over 700 million people who don't have enough clean water. We have about 800 million who don't have enough food. We have increasing disasters costing us trillions of dollars a year and killing easily 500,000 or more. But we're going to lose 1 million species in the next few years if we don't do something. All of this stuff is connected. Going back to one of your real early statements, the first step is to understand that the planet is valuable to us and essential. Our planet in dollars is actually twice as valuable as the global GDP rolled up. Why would you waste that investment? If you were buying stocks, you wouldn't do that. If you were working a bank account, you would never do that. But does anybody know this? Does the public know this? No, we don't explain it to them. They come at it in a way of, you know, historically it was, oh, it'd be nice if we did this. Well, now it's not just nice. Now it's essential. If we don't do this, you're going to die from heat stress, or a hurricane is going to wipe you out, or your business is gone because the sea level's too high. So
they don't pay attention, and the powers that be think throwing dollars at that is up for something that they don't know would happen. You know, I was telling somebody the other day, I swear I saw that the state of Louisiana was requesting that the president go ahead and proclaim them a state of disaster before the disaster hit. And I'm like, they know it's coming. You know it's happening. And yet, you know, like I've got an innovator in my network who created a smart tunneling system to keep floods from happening. He saved Kuala Lumpur by doing this. And when the floods start to happen, then that tunnel activates and, you know, saves a whole, you know, cities out of Australia. But he works in these spaces and as brilliant as a, you know, engineer. But, you know, there are people out there, and yes, you might have to invest in that, but what you're investing in is the planet and the people you're saving. But, you know, as you were talking, it made me think of how in the United States, you know, that years and years and years ago, and I can go back to even my grandparents and great grandparents, land was super important. It was what you ate off of because you had to grow gardens to survive. It was, you know, in order to make money, you farmed, you know, and the everything that lived on it was important to you. And I think that, you know, over the period of time, land is still valuable to real estate investors, I guess, and agents, because I know where I live right now, I've been told there's not a place to buy, a house to buy here to be had. And so it's a seller's market right now. So real estate is important for, you know, for certain reasons now, but it's not like it used to be. It's not, you know, real estate is houses pretty much now, or land you can put houses on. But the land itself isn't as, you know, as far as providing for our livelihood, you know, our food and our water and, you know, sustainable resources is not like it used to be. And we just don't appreciate, I don't think.
Well, we just go to the store.
Well,
we're disconnected.
Yeah,
you know, we're not thinking beyond, oh, I have to run to the store today.
Yeah.
But the truth is that we do have a food problem. As I said, there's about 800 million people who don't have enough food. 9 million people die each year from hunger and hunger-related diseases. I mean,
it's crazy.
You can't even get your head around that. Why should we have a world where there could be plenty of food if we gave it some thought and accept that 9 million people have to die every year? It makes no sense.
It really doesn't. And I think that's where we get back to that thing is people are looking at their own four walls, their own communities and everything, because we've been taught to do that. But when you start to see that your neighbor is also, this is a real example, that gal in Nepal that literally came to me and said she's trying to raise money to buy food for the homeless. They've been hit hard by the variant of COVID. You know, they're right close to India. And so India's, you know, dying at the speed of light right now. But she said the homeless and what she called the day laborers that, you know, by the hour, get picked up by the hour to go work, are starving. And, you know, just in the last year, we were able to help a gal in, I think, where was she? In Zambia, that was without food and couldn't, you know, she was sick and could not get to food, and try to help her out. So yeah, they're your neighbors. They're not people that are National Geographic statistics. You know, they're real. They're people. You know,
out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
I'm afraid. So that's why my purpose is well-being and prosperity for everyone. Everyone should have a basic.
Yeah.
I mean, we shouldn't have people dying because they don't have food. If that's true, then we need to work with the rest of countries in the world who have surplus. We waste an unbelievable amount of food every year. Unbelievable. 9 million people can die while we're throwing food in the trash.
And because we couldn't get to it before it expired. Yeah.
Or even worse, the market fell apart, so we just chuck our corn away. We were going to ship it, but somebody didn't want it now, or the price was too cheap. We're just going to throw it away. No, there are people, that's a life and death issue for them.
Yes.
Give it to them.
Yes.
What the heck? If we're going to throw it away.
Yeah.
So.
I know. Well, let's get back to Healthy Lands. Where is it going? How old is this organization that you started, and where do you think it's headed in the next year?
Almost 2 years. Yeah, almost 2 years. So let me just tell you the last piece of the existing knowledge base here is building communities.
Okay.
So I talk about peer reviews, peer-to-peer consults, and partner meetings, and citizen science, and then working in social ecological systems. You know, recognizing that it's not just about trees or fish; it's about the people who rely on them. So where's we going? So I'm going to finish up in the near term. I'm finishing up the online class. I'm putting out another edition of the book because while doing the online course, I realized there's more stuff I wanted to talk about. You know, so I've already augmented. I've been doing the online course and redeveloping the book at the same time. So I'm excited about that. I've been collecting material and starting to frame out strategy for healthy lands or healthy lands and waters. So it's another area I felt like we were weak in, is having a strategy for like, what's the problem? What's their capacity to address it? Are we the right organization? Who's the right organization? What is our strategy? The big ideas that we need to be pursuing. What kind of actions do we need to build into that? What kind of metrics? What kind of resources are we going to have to develop? All of that stuff. So I want people. It's an idea about helping people think in a different way.
Yeah.
Extend their thinking, extend their vision. I mean, leadership, you really need to have vision. You need to be looking ahead, looking ahead, not trying to worry about whether I've got enough pencils today, but am I going to have enough pencils 10 years from now? It's what is it going to take to get there? So theory of change. So that's the next piece. And then, I don't know, I'm open. We'll see where it goes.
Two last questions. And what comes to my mind is anytime somebody's talking to me about something that's that comprehensive of a training, I always think, is there certification or anything at the end of it, when they get to the end of it, is something that they can take forward. If it's somebody young and they can put it on a resume or a CV, is it, if it's somebody a little bit older, that credential could make a difference in their paycheck. I don't know. So there's that. And I'm going to leave it at that, because if I get you into the next thing, you're going to answer that first. So go ahead.
Yeah, I have thought about it. I just haven't put it together yet. I haven't done it. Sometimes I used to give certificates at NatureServe to the people who came to the course, and I'll do something like that too. I know it's a strange little thing. I always think that what you get back from it is a better sense of yourself, and pride and confidence, all of that. But I know there's something about a piece of paper or a digital badge or something that we just want it.
I'll tell you why. In my previous life, I've worked in government, and the word evidence-based means something to people's paychecks in government. I'm going to tell you that right now. You know that already. But when you say evidence-based, you always think of maybe your university endorsed, backed, whatever. Oh, are you writing notes? I thought I was the one writing notes. But anyway, from my perspective, I used to work in aging services, and in aging services, there's a regional level, a state level, and then a national level. And in order for monies to trickle down from the federal to the state to the little guy down here, for programs that would impact that aging community, the programs had to be what they call evidence-based, and they had to come from a university authorized, looked after, saying, yep, this works and this is how it works, and blessed program. And if you got one of those programs, you could get the money from the federal government to cover the cost of that. So that's why I'm saying, whenever you say the word evidence-based, it goes ding. Okay, this means money or something to somebody. So if you have that, and you're a scientist, researcher, so my feeling is you probably have that, or if you didn't, you could get it real fast. To have that behind you, to have that kind of certification that says, this was an evidence-based program, blah, 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 finished, completed this course, blah, blah, blah. I think, honestly, could be moved around to entities that would want to have that and pay for that program. And as you and I were talking, even though I think we're talking at the adult level, I'm thinking of colleges. I'm thinking of, even if it's a community college, because I think you have to get more granular, you have to get more grassroots, I think, with some of this, other than putting it as an elective somewhere at a university so they can get a check mark in a box. Just if this makes sense, I don't know. To me, and I got told this with one of my youth leadership programs. I was aiming at college, and I got told it was a sports leadership program. And I got told, you'll appreciate, I got told by the coach of NC State University when I went up to see him and pitch him the idea. He said, Mary, the youth that I'm getting already have their mindsets before I get them. And if you can get them then, before I get them, then I'm a happier coach and everybody, does well. And so I'm kind of looking at how far down the trek you can go with something like this, where they'll understand it, grab it, and be able to run with it once they get into corporate world, once they start their entrepreneurship journey or whatever it is they're going to do. But that's just my bandwagon. But the next question I had for you is, what kind of partners or collaborators might you be looking for right now? Or are you looking for any right now?
Yeah, my first choice would be somebody or some multiples who are complementary. I'm not looking to build a bunch of
Plain complementary.
teachers.
Yeah.
Complementary as in, look,
because I'm going to take notes.
We have a complex project.
Yes.
It's going to take a lot of different disciplines to do.
Uh-huh.
I'm glad to plug in and provide the leadership and help shape it for you. You be the chemist, and you can function as the ecologist, and you can be the government policy person. And together, we'll combine our skills and we'll move it forward.
Okay. So if you had to pick out, this sounds like a team that you're putting together, but I'm thinking from the standpoint of somebody who could take what you're doing, pull it into their organization, or work with you to collaborate and expand on what you're doing to push it to further geographic regions. And you're global. I know you are. You've worked in China and different places around the world, I'm sure. So I always think global, where this could translate so well. And I keep going back to your Monopoly game, because I really think that we need to gamify all of this. Your leadership, we need to gamify that. And that, by the way, my first 10 years in doing professional networking connections was in the video games industry. That's why I know that you could do this. And I know who would probably do it with you. But I think that, there's always room for partners that can help you expand. And so I would put that to you and say, if you think of any particular types, or if any come to your mind, let us know. That is kind of what we do. So we're happy to push people in front of you that we think might be useful to you. But as far as the direction goes now, it sounds like you've got some more work to do. You want to put out another book. And so add some more to the training program and that sort of thing. Any other project work that's on the horizon around the globe in the next short while?
No, nothing front and center at the moment. I'm looking for where I can have the most impact. I mean, the way to think about the leadership stuff I've developed is enabling for countless different projects, programs, endeavors, challenges. I become an enabler, and I can go in, and I have gone into college, just haven't formalized it, but I've gone in and talked to college students who go, oh my God, so much need this. So there's a market there. But enabling, I mean, I get, through LinkedIn, I've got a lot of people from Africa, some from Asia.
I was just going to say, if you want to make the most
Latin America,
here it is.
It's the developing continents and countries that are just going, oh, we want to do this. In fact, I'm going to have to, one thing I'm going to have to do is raise some money so I can give scholarships. Because a lot of these people, even though they've come up through school in their countries and are working there, they still don't have money. I do charge a nominal fee for the online stuff. And certainly if I have to travel, if I do in-person coaching or training, I'm gonna have to charge to keep going. So there's something important that a gap that needs to be closed. The people who are most in need and most want it are struggling to get it. So
they are, you're not alone. Almost everybody that I've interviewed that has a special effort or a program or something like that, that's really aimed at the third world countries, are struggling with the fact that they're so poor that they can't afford to get the kind of training that they need to have. And so it does take some sponsorship and scholarship.
The converse of that is in developed countries, for example, the United States, people think, oh, leadership, that's kind of gushy and I don't really need that stuff. My job is to do this.
No, they think they're a leader already.
A lot of them do. God love them.
Syndrome. Not
and
every.
It's always like with the hats when we do exercise. I do a lot of kinetic exercises and experiential stuff and group stuff when I do it in person, and that's the fun part. But people always they come in and they're like, ooh, yeah, my boss told me to be here, or I came, but I'm not so sure. And they're tight when you get them. You have to do icebreakers, and
Yeah.
I do a lot of those. That's the hats is
You have the
just
yin
one
and
of
the
them.
yang. You've got
And
some
you
that are
go,
smart
I
and they
say,
are leaders, and then others that are maybe not there yet.
"Well,
So
why would I need this? I don't get
yeah,
this." So you have to work with it. I mean, the hats, I make them make their own hats.
they did a good
And then,
job. I'm going to show pictures
right.
with.
And then they become a brain. I make them stand up. I put the brain together. You're the limbic system, you're
Yeah.
the occipital, you're the cortex, you're the cerebellum. All right, make the brain. And I make them stand up and they're looking at each other. They
Like, I
always
don't
look
know.
at each other like, are you getting up?
Mm,
I guess I'll get up if you get up. And they do it. And then we do exercises about, here's the problem. What part of the brain is activated
mm.
and what's happening now? So that's fun. That's like here, I guess I'm just reminding myself how much fun it is now that we've been locked down for so long to get in there with people,
Yeah.
get them moving, and
Yeah.
get them thinking and challenging them. I tell you, when I used to do this with Nature Serve, I take them away someplace, get them away from everybody,
Yeah.
and have them work together. And they took real problems,
Yeah.
and they would just like
Hackathon type.
put it on, and they would come out of that. We always came out with stuff that was just critically important, and like, wow, why didn't we come up with that before?
Unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah, you give people the right environment and give them freedom to be as creative as they want to be. It's amazing what they'll come up with, and even young people, that I've worked with do the same thing. That's fantastic. Well, I already have written down, as what happens, several names that I need to send you. Yeah, I figure if I kept you talking long, I'm gonna, start to surface some of the names. That's what I do. And I will talk to you about those in a few minutes. But I just want to thank you so much for all that you're doing outside of this interview, for sure. All the books that you're writing, the work that you're doing with people around the world on sustainable development of our planet, and really just leadership in general, and just that sense of you can do this. This is not hard. And you can get out of yourself and get away from yourself and understand that you can solve your own problems, and some big ones too, for others around the world. So it's all about impact with us. So thank you so much. I appreciate
You're very
it.
welcome. Thank you.
And we'll drop the links that you sent me to all the efforts that you're involved into. And in this YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube, everyone, then you can find it in the description piece here. And if you're watching it on Frontrunners Innovate, then just below this video, you'll be able to see how to get a hold of this gentleman if you need to get his ear, and also, find him on some other social media, and his website. So thank you again. Buy his book. It'll make you a genius.
Thank you.
And if nothing else, get a hold of him and find out about that Monopoly game, because we need that for everybody. So thank you again, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you.